Hi everybody, welcome to Arabella's Reading Corner. I'm Arabella and today we will be reading Everglades, paintings by Wendell Miner, or whatever his last name is. As you can see, I'm broadcasting from the Everglades. Well, not quite broadcasting, just videoing. But let's check this book out. The Storyteller, I'm just going to read it like this. The Storyteller pulled the children under arching trees into a sunny waterglade. He sat down and leaned toward them. I am going to tell you a story, he said. It is not a story about a person or mythical creature. It is not even a story about an animal. It's a story about a river. He swung his arms in a wide circle. This river, the miraculous Everglades of Florida. My story will be different from any you have heard because this river is like no other river on earth. There is only one Everglades. The children leaned forward. He began. And this is the Storyteller, and these are the children. I like the white bird. In fact, I think I saw one today. First, there was sunshine on a blue-green sea. It was the age of the seashells. The seashells formed a rock called limestone on the sea bottom. Over the eons, the sea lowered and the rock became land. The long Florida peninsula took shape in warm, sunny waters. Purple clouds, flashing with lightning, roiled and boomed over the land. Rain gushed from the storm clouds in summer. Sun bathed the land in winter. Moss grew, then ferns, then grass and trees. The rain eroded holes in the soft limestone and filled them with water. Florida glistened with green land and blue-green lakes. Oh. So this is the blue-green water and the purple clouds. And that's the storm that's happening. One was Lake Okeechobee, round, deep, and as clear as window glass. Lake Okeechobee filled to its brim and spilled over. The spill became a river that seeped 100 miles down the peninsula from Lake Okeechobee to the Florida Bay. It was 50 miles wide and only 6 inches deep in most places. Wow, that's shallow. This river did not chortle and splash. It did not crash over falls and race. It was a small river that gleamed like quicksilver. We know it today as Everglades. Into this shallow, warm river came tiny one-celled animals and plants. They lived and died and made gray-green soil on the bottom of the river. Sawgrass took root in the soil. These are some cool-looking plants, and I like this butterfly. The grass prospered. When the winds blew, the sawgrass clattered like a trillion swords. Each sword was edged with cutting spines. Of the larger animals, only the leathery alligator could walk unharmed among the terrible spears of the sawgrass. Around the stems of the grass scurried the young of insects and tiny crabs and snails. Little fish found these to be excellent eating. Turtles and alligators found the fish to be excellent eating. Every wild thing ate well, and there was still an enormous abundance. To the abundance came the birds. clouds of lacy white egrets made their home in the Everglades. So that must be a crocodile or an alligator. Can't really tell if it's a pointy beak right now or just round beak. Every day, a blizzard of wood storks dropped into the grass and dined on the snails, crabs, bugs, and fish. A profusion of pink flamingos hunted in the shallow mudflats. Hundreds of miles of roseate spoonbills vacuumed the ponds and shallows with their seed-like bills. A myriad of little songbirds fluttered through the trees that grew on the islands in the river of Sawgrass. Quantities of alligators roamed the grass and dug pools for their young. Into their pools came fish and turtles, herons and hingas. Oh, I did a rap about that. And billions of frogs, snakes, and snails. I'm guessing that that's an egret. I've never seen one before, but I could be wrong. A multitude of panthers, raccoons, deer, and otter came to the river. They made their homes on the beautiful islands. A plenitude of orchids bloomed and turned the islet trees into colorful cathedral windows. Oh, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. A plethora of lizards and antholes clamored over the orchids and 2,000 kinds of plants, including palms, vines, bushes, grasses, and trees. When all were in place, the Everglades was a living kaleidoscope of color and beauty. It glittered with orchids, grass, trees, birds, panthers, raccoons, snakes, mosquitoes, fish, all things large and small that made the earth beautiful. That's a Florida panther right there. Nice background. There's a rainbow, and you see the spoonbills. Do you want to know why they're called spoonbills? Their bills are shaped like, kind of like a spoon. Not quite. You couldn't pick it up and eat with it, but yeah. There's a lot of birds, flamingos, and a nice landscape. The storyteller paused. The children looked around and pondered. The storyteller went on. When the Everglades was perfect, people who called themselves Clauses, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, arrived. They lived gracefully on the fish and game and made tools out of seashells. The Spanish, I'm just going to say conquerors, or whatever this word is, arrived, and the Claza people disappeared. The conquerors were afraid of the flesh-ripping grass and roaring animals of the Everglades, and they moved on. North of Florida, European men pushed the Creek Indians out of the Carolinas. Some of them walked south until they came to the silvery Everglades. They pulled deep. Okay. Those are the ship I think the conquerors arrived in. Still not sure of the word. They pulled deep into the Sawgrass and settled on the island. They are the Seminole Indians. A few of them live here today. The storyteller paused. The children looked around. Where are the clouds of egrets? A child asked. The hunters shot them by the tens of thousands and sold the feathers to decorate women's hats. Only a few survived the slaughter. Where are the quantities of alligators? Another child asked. The hunters shot them by the acres and sold. That must be one of the Seminole Indians. And sold their gleaming hides to make wallets and shoes. Only a few remain. Where did the cathedral windows of orchids go? A third child asked. The orchid hunters picked gardens and gardens of them and sold them to put on ladies' dresses. Practically none can be found. Wow, very sad. Another child looked around. And where did the mammals and snails and one-celled plants and animals go? They vanished when the engineers dug canals in the Everglades and drained them. Okay, this is the ship that flowed through the Everglades. And drained the fresh water into the sea to make land. Farmers tilled the land, business people built towns and roads upon it. Pesticides and fertilizers flowed into the river waters and poisoned the one-celled animals and plants. The snails died, the fish died, the mammals and birds died. Very, very sad. But this is a sad story, said a fifth child. Please tell us a happy story. The storyteller picked up his pole and quietly skimmed the dugout canoe across the water and down a trail in the sawgrass. Then he sat down and told the children a new story. So that must be all the drained water. 5 children and a storyteller pulled into the Everglades. Eventually, the children grew up and ran the earth. The clouds of birds returned to an abundance of fish in the water. The flowers tumbled into a balloon. Quantities of alligators bellowed through the sawgrass again. A multitude of panthers, deer, raccoons, and otters cavorted on the islands. I'm not sure of that word. Well, anyway, that's a much better story, said the children. Now pull us home quickly so we can grow up. That's a nice sunset. I hope you enjoyed this Everglades book. Well, the title is Everglades. Goodbye.